it's Janet with Purl Together, and welcome back. We have finished knitting the toe portion of our 2 at a time Scatterby socks. So what follows is a brief description of learning how to read a chart, as well as knitting the foot portion of the sock. We are ready to begin the foot section. And so if you look at the pattern, we're first going to do a setup row. Now she says knit 32, and for me that will be knitting 36. So we're just going to knit 36 across here and then do the same for the second sock. And then remove the marker if you have one. Alright, so I've knitted across the first half and I've turned my work. Now I'm going to knit 2 plain stitches as instructed, and the pattern indicates that you could place a marker here. I don't really feel the need to. Basically all we're doing is knitting the chart between 2 stitches on each side. So the chart pattern will be framed on each side by 2 plain stitches. So now what we're going to do is KW2. So what does that mean? That means you knit into the stitch as if normally and wrap it twice. So KW2 is knit, wrap twice. So you just go once like you normally would, but instead of completing the stitch here, we're going to go around and wrap again. And we're going to draw both of those loops through there. Now that kind of makes it look like 2 stitches when you do that, so you have to be careful. And then go ahead and knit 3. All right, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do that same knit, wrap 2. So go in as if to knit and wrap twice and draw it through. Okay. Now the purpose of wrapping something twice like this, if I get my camera to focus, is that's going to make an extra long loop. When we go back into this stitch, which has 2 wraps, it's going to be a bigger, longer loop than a normal one. And the reason for that is if you look at the chart, wherever you see a dash, those are slips, and those are stacked on top of this. So this is going to make this particular stitch long enough that we can carry it up 2 more rows without puckering or stretching the fabric. So that's the point of wrapping that and making the loop longer. Okay, I'll show you one more time and then you can carry on. Go in as if to knit, because you are, wrap twice and pull it through. So it really is that simple. So you're just going to continue this chart pattern and across until you get to, now the pattern says do it 7 more times. For me it's going to be 8 because I cast on more stitches. So you're just going to continue on until you get to 2 before the end. Now I'm 2 before the end, and I'm just going to simply knit those 2. And that's going to frame, you can see there's my double one. There's my double one. That's just going to frame the chart between 2 plain stitches. Alright, so moving on to my second sock on the same needles and being careful not to twist my working yarn coming from my project bag. I'm just going to take a moment to kind of reorient things and sort out what I've got going here. Okay, we're just going to do the same thing on this side. Knit 2 plain ones and begin your chart going across. So row 1 is, or sorry, this is the, we're still on the setup row. I misspoke. We are not doing the chart quite yet. We're on the setup row. So we're just doing our knit, wrap 2 and knit 3. Carry on with that until you get to the end and you'll have 2 plain stitches left. All right, knit those last 2 plain stitches. Turn your work, being mindful not to twist or further across your project yarn or your working yarn, pardon me. All right, now we're back to the beginning. So now we're going to, we've done the chart, and now we're just going to simply knit across these stitches because these are the sole stitches. And the rest of the foot is worked in plain stockinette stitch. And so, you know, that's on the bottom of your foot. So you're going to begin your round by just working straight across these, and the chart will be back here. So we'll go ahead and work across that, and then we'll start row 1 of the chart. If you've read charts before, then you can go ahead and skip through this part. But if you're new to using reading charts, you're going to want to knit. Row 1 is here at the bottom, and we knit. When we knit, we go from right to left. And so when we read a chart, we're going to do the same thing because you're following along in the same way that you do your work. Now, what I want to point out here is that The dash does not mean a purl stitch, and the reason that's important to note is many times it does. In knitting charts, most of the time, a plain square is a knit and a dash is a purl, but that is not the case here. So take note that a dash means slip with the yarn in front. So be mindful of this. So this is row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4, and we're going to start here and go this way. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is slip with the yarn in front. So after we knitted those 2 stitches, obviously our yarn's in the back like normal. So we're going to just bring that around to the front. Now you'll notice this is our double. And the reason that we doubled it, wrapped it twice, remember, is because we're going to slip it. So don't worry about trying to catch both of them. You don't want to catch both wraps. You're just going to slip it off, and you'll notice that it's really tall and big and loose. Well, that's okay, because it's going to have to be slipped again on the next row. So don't worry about how loose that is. Just go ahead and slip that off. Take your yarn around to the back, because now we're going to knit, and just knit your next 3. Okay? Don't worry about how loose that is. It'll all become clear shortly. So we're going to do the same thing now. Bring the yarn to the front. Get this stitch. Don't try to get the wrap. Just grab the stitch and let it untwist. That's fine. And there you go. It's really that simple. So just continue to do that across until you get to the last 2 stitches. Okay, so I'm slipping that off, taking my yarn back to the back, and knit the next 3. All right, carry on until you get your next marker, if you placed one, or just until you get to the last 2 stitches. Then we're going to go ahead and knit across the second sock in the same way. And see what we've got going on here. So that's pretty cool. This is where we slipped with the yarn in front and took the yarn across, right? So you can kind of see it's going to start some texture. So go ahead and turn your work, being careful not to further twist your stitches. I keep saying that. Sorry about the camera bump there. Knit across the back. And then we'll begin round 2 of the chart, row 2 of the chart. All right, so row 2 now is when you're going to draw this up again. So with the yarn in front, we're going to slip that stitch with the yarn in front, and that's why we're glad that I can't even speak. That's why we're glad that that stitch was super loose, is because now we've drug it up 2 rows basically. So then we're only going to knit 1 this time, and here comes the star. Now the star is the knit wrap twice. So when we did it before, we did it on the setup row, and so we didn't have the star designation there because we were just reading the setup row. So you're going to do it again. Just go in as if to knit and wrap 2 times and bring all of that back in, and then knit 1. And that's the end of the 4-stitch pattern repeat. So just continue doing that all the way across. All right? Again, slip with the yarn in front, knit 1, knit, wrap twice, knit 1. So you can see what's going to happen. Where we've wrapped twice, that's going to be the one that we slip next time. So those slip stitches are staggered, and you can see that with the stars on the chart. Okay, so just carry on until the last 2 and knit those plain and continue across. So I'm going to knit round and round a little bit and get some established, and then I'll show you what it looks like after I've done an inch or so. All right, I'm a couple inches into the foot section, and I'm thinking it's looking pretty good. I like the stitch definition of this yarn, although the diameter of the yarn is pretty small, and it does tend to be just a little bit splitty, I guess. So I need to be a little careful and mindful of that, but I do like it. The chart takes a little bit to get memorized, so it's going a little slower for me because I haven't yet quite memorized the chart. But I'm sure after I knit, the whole length of the foot plus the leg, I'll have it down by then. All right, then continue knitting until you get to approximately 3 inches from the end of the heel. So if you were to measure from your longest toe to the end of the heel, you'll want to stop knitting about 3 inches before the end. Now, the beauty of toe-up socks is that you can also try them on, as long as you're super careful not to slip your foot in there, and you don't want to cause any stitches to fall off the end of the needles. So just be really careful about that. If your intended recipient of the socks is not in your household, you can find like conversion charts online that show the difference. Like a regular women's size 8 is roughly however many inches. So you can use that if you need to try to estimate. So stop knitting about 3 inches before the desired length of the foot. Now, the pattern refers to the FLK, or the Fish Lips Kiss heel. That is a pattern that is paid for a pattern. It costs $1 from the author's website, and you can pay for that and download that if you wish. I will not be teaching that row by row because it's a paid for pattern. I respect the designer, and I think we should support designers. If I were to teach it row by row, then people would just watch the video and not support her by paying $1 for that pattern. So out of respect for copyright laws and also her efforts, I won't be doing that. I'll be choosing to knit a heel flap and gusset in the same way that we did with the other video, the customizable toe-up sock. So if you're interested in doing that, you can follow along. You can also, the pattern also references the German short row heel technique, and there's a link in the PDF to go there if you're interested in doing a short row heel. So again, I'm going to teach the same slip stitch, heel flap, and gusset technique that I did in the other videos, but I'm going to tweak it just a little bit because I want to add some slip stitch reinforcement to the back of the heel as well as to the padding on the bottom of the foot. So stay tuned for that next time. All right, as always, if you find these videos helpful, like and subscribe down below, and I look forward to seeing you in the Facebook group, is also the Ravelry group, and the links are down below. Just click on Show More at the bottom of the description. Okay. Have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for watching.